So welcome back to another episode, and today I thought I'd take some time and go through some video games and talk about them that I think deserve the 10 out of 10 right next to them. Games that are that good, that have lived up to the hype and then some over the years, and I thought I'd just share my personal experiences of why I think these games deserve 10 out of 10s right next to them. And I gotta say, this is a major random list. I've had so much fun walking around the games room, looking at all the games and sitting there thinking on a night saying, why is this game really cool? Some of these games I have never talked about before on the channel, and it's kind of surprising because they're such huge games that definitely deserve to be talked about. And I also got to say, there's no 10 out of 10 official lists out there, guys. This is just my personal opinion. Please, down below, tell me what are some of your favorite video games that deserve a 10 out of 10. A game that really had an emotional effect on you. You know, you were blown away by the game mechanics. Everything just kind of clicked. You know, the sun and everything aligned that day for that particular game, and you bestowed upon it the 10 out of 10 because it deserved it. So I'm going to do a lot more of these in the future, purely random list in no order at all. Now, for longtime watchers of the show, a lot of you out there will know that some of my favorite video games of all time are Breath of the Wild and the original Phantasy Star. They're not in this list. They're not in this list. I've talked about them so much. I've done that. I want to talk about a game that I think is the best video game ever made. Yeah, and I've never done this before. It's so nuts. I'm going to get right to it. Tetris. Tetris is, in my mind, one of the most ingeniously made video games of all time. Made in Russia in 1984. Who saw this coming? Nobody saw this coming. It was just another puzzle game, and I gotta say something else. I'm not a huge fan of puzzle games at all until I got my Game Boy back in the day, and I got Tetris, and I started to play it, and I was like, wow, this is really incredibly addicting. And I gotta say, I'm not very good at the game. I don't think I'll ever be very good at the game, but that's how amazing this game is. The level in there of how good you can get. And there's people who've gone all the way to the top. And it's such a challenging game, and it's such a smart game. It's a brilliant game. And I'm just in awe of it. And why I kind of bestow upon it the title of the best video game of all time is because I think it's great for people of young age, of older ages, of all different player skills. I think anybody can pick this up and play it and get really good, or just remain exactly the same like I have for the last 20 plus years. I never seem to get better at the game, but I always aspire to get better at it. And it's so interesting how much over the years I've gone back to Tetris. And let me say, Tetris has been on every single machine known to mankind, but it's the one game that I go, man, that's a really smart made game that you can come back to it over and over. I often say that even if I was on a desert island, I'd love Tetris. I would love to have that game. I believe that this is, it's an 11 or 12 out of 10 game. It's a really brilliant creation made, as I say, in Russia, 1984. Who knew? But definitely a 10 out of 10 game. The next game I'm gonna pick is on the Sega Genesis, and it's an RPG. It was released in Japan in 1993 and brought out to North America in 1995. What could that be? What could it be? I love talking about this game when I can, and that is Phantasy Star 4. Please forgive my terrible box here. It's the one that I did pick up in Blockbuster Video, and I love having it. Why is this game a 10 out of 10 game? Especially coming off the first 3 games. I love the first game. The second game I really like as well. Third game's a little bit, The fourth game in the series ends the storyline. It completely ends the storyline, sums everything up in a beautiful package, and ends it beautifully. And you know, with the characters and with the worlds and everything that was all over the place in the last few games before it, it neatly puts it together in a beautiful package, and that is Phantasy Star 4. And I gotta say, the storyline is excellent. The graphics, I'm telling you, if you want to see some of the best sprite-based graphics of all time, Phantasy Star 4 is definitely there. I love the characters in the game. I love how they all look. I love the combat. I love the vehicles in the game. I love the overworld. I love the music. You can tell that I really like this game, and I'm picking it because I think it's the best RPG on the Genesis. It's a Phantasy Star game. It's the last in the single-player Phantasy Star series, and it sums it up really well. The monster designs, everything in this game was perfection. One of the best on the Genesis. A game for all time. I tell you, you can go in and just pick this game up and start playing it right away. It's on many Sega Genesis collections out there if you're curious. And be curious. It's a wonderful RPG, a great adventure, phenomenal music. I really love how random this list is. I'm going all over the place from, puzzle games to RPGs, and that lends us right into 2013 on the PlayStation 3. A little game was released and I thought I would like it. I didn't know I would like it as much as I did. And that game is Dragon's Crown right here. And it was also released on the PS4 as Dragon's Crown Pro. What's the deal with this game? It's a side view action RPG, kind of following the Dungeons and Dragons arcade style of games from back in the day. But there's a lot more depth here. There's a lot more levels. There's a lot of characters. And the great thing is, you can play it with your friends. That's what I love about this game. I played this when it first got released with my wife. We couldn't get enough of it. We kept leveling up, doing levels over and over again, fighting the same bosses, upgrading our equipment. But there's just something magical about it that just kind of takes it past a game that we really liked into a 10 out of 10 game for me. I love the graphics. I think that they did such an amazing job with the atmosphere. I love the character profiles. I love the storyline. I love how mysterious it is. And that is enhanced as well with a wonderful soundtrack that at times gave me shivers listening to it. And just running around in the caverns and things like that. It also kind of reminds me of like a Golden Axe, sequel that we never got, but we kind of got it here with this game. And I can't say enough good things about Dragon's Crown. And I think what it is it's that, couch co-op or online play that it really kind of encompasses also Dungeons and Dragons. What Dungeons and Dragons, the tabletop game, means to me in kind of a side view action game. And they really got it right. They got it kind of right for me in the past with, those Capcom arcade games. But they really got it right with this game, and I can't say enough good things about it. And you know what? The game is not expensive now. Really look this up, pick it up, for sure. Now we've got to go back to 1998 on the PlayStation 1. A small little game was getting released by Squaresoft, and it really kind of was a small little game. There wasn't a lot of hype behind this. They weren't really getting crazy with the advertising like they did with Final Fantasy VII, but man, this game came with a punch, and it's one game that I want to talk about here that I have always aspired to review on the channel, and I shy away from it. And people would say, well, why? Why would you shy away from it? Because first of all, it means so much to me, and I feel that the game is so much bigger than a video game that I couldn't ever do it justice. Even if I did an hour-long review on it, I don't think I can get everything out of me as I would like to explain why I love it so much. And that is Xenogears, or Xenogears, as a lot of people say as well. This game came out, RPG that is so big in scope. If you kind of want to know what Xenogears is, it realistically is a huge world like Star Wars, but so big and vast, spreading thousands of years. And it's a dark future. It's a dark setting. It's a really weird setting. And we follow these characters and we get to learn all about them and their pasts. I'm not going to ruin anything there for anybody who wants to delve in. It's also the huge mechas in the game that are phenomenal. And there's a lot of religious implications within this game. It's that big. It's huge in scope. It's got a great soundtrack to back it. Great character art. Great mechs, as I say, great world setting, great world universe building. So big, in fact, that they released in Japan back in the day, Xenogears Perfect Works, a huge book to explain the world and how it all works. And look at all the detail they put in here. And this was supposed to be a lot of different games. It was going to be a big multiverse series, kind of like they had planned for Shenmue back in the day. I think this is going to be every couple of years they release a new game and build upon and build upon and build upon it. But it was so ambitious that, yes, they only got one game out. In fact, even when you got to the second disc, there's a lot more text rather than game. And you're like, what's going on? Budget restraints kicked in. And it really is upsetting because I would have really liked to have seen what they could have done with a full-on crazy budget. Yeah, this game kind of got overlooked by the masses. It got brought back over the years with a completely different series. And you got to remember that, like the Xeno series after this is completely different. And it's nothing to do with this game. This game is its own thing. Everything else is a spiritual successor into itself. So you got to understand that. So Xenogears is its own thing. And it is glorious. Let me tell you, it is glorious. I remember many times going into film school discussing the religious implications and the story and how big it was in scope. And I think that's it. It's so big in scope. 10 out of 10 game. Now we leave the world of RPGs and go back to 1989 to a small arcade I visited one day. It was called the Honeybee Arcade in North Delta in Vancouver, BC, British Columbia here. And I walked in with all my friends, and we were like just kind of skipping school for the afternoon or something like that. And we walked in and I saw this cabinet and I'm like, oh my God, what game is this? And quickly we spent all the money we had on this game and we finished it and we were in awe of it. And it was incredible. And that is Final Fight. Final Fight to me is a 10 out of 10 game. And people will be like going, why? Why is it a 10 out of 10 game? It's just a beat 'em up. Yes, it is. But it really put beat 'em ups in a whole different direction. Now, obviously, there was Double Dragon and a few other smaller beat 'em ups at the time. But when you saw Final Fight, when you saw the graphics, when you saw the characters, when you saw the moves, and the sound effects that went along with those moves, you're like, whoa. And it was just beautifully colorful. You know, Capcom back then with sprites was on fire. And when you first saw Final Fight, I was like, oh my God, look at these huge characters on the screen. Look at the detail. Look at my own character. I remember using Guy and doing that side punch and just thinking it was the best thing I'd ever done in my entire life. And I adored the game. And over the years, I bought so many different versions of it on, on the Sega CD, on the Famicom, Super Famicom here. I've loved every version of it, and I swear to God, I bought every version of it known to mankind. I even have a bought version of it on the Nintendo Switch. It changed the way we looked at beat 'em ups, and after that, there was a flood of beat 'em ups into arcades. Honestly, after that, it was just one beat 'em up after another. But Final Fight was such a big deal. It was such a big deal for graphics and for gameplay and just for the animation and everything going on at the time. And what a classic soundtrack. I love Final Fight, and I will to the end of days because it's so damn good. Definitely for me, a 10 out of 10 game. Now for this next one, I gotta go back to 1998, but it's not that game there. That game there is a wonderful game. It's an absolutely killer game. A game I adore. That's Resident Evil 2 here. What a phenomenal game this was when it came out. Incredible. But we have to go back to 2019 when we got Resident Evil 2, the remake. The remake by Capcom. Capcom's bringing it back, I'm telling you. I was like, okay, they're gonna remake it. And I start to play it and I was like, oh my God, they've really put a lot of work into this. And I'm like, oh my God, they've really enhanced this. Oh, they've added so much more to this. Oh my God, I like this more than the original. And that's saying something because I love that original game. I always will nostalgically now. But Resident Evil 2, the remake, man, they brought their A game, man. And for me, it's a 10 out of 10 game for me. I often think it should have been Game of the Year. It should have been Game of the Year. And I guess they didn't want to give it that because it was a remake. Where it's such a remake that it feels like a brand new, fresh experience, and it is. I was going around corners and I didn't know what was going to happen. Even though I played the original game, it was changed enough. And also, like, they changed a lot of different things where you could be safe in the original, you're not safe in this one anymore. And I could go on for hours about the gameplay and how wonderful it controls, and about the graphics and about the atmosphere, the tension, the music, which you had to buy as a DLC. I wasn't happy about that, but I'm not holding that against it at all. This game is wonderful. All of the characters in this game, oh my God, this to me is Resident Evil at its finest. At its finest. It doesn't get better than Resident Evil 2, the remake. If I never got another Resident Evil game again, I'd be happy, because for me, it's about Raccoon City. It's about going through that city. I love it. The police department, solving those puzzles, the zombies, the blood, the guts, the scares. I mean, this game had it all. 10 out of 10 for sure. Now we're going back to 2001 on a certain machine. A certain machine was hitting the market with a killer app. And let me say, I wasn't sold. I didn't have the money at the time to get this console by Microsoft, and that was an Xbox. I was just like, no, I'll wait. I'm not getting it day one. And they were showing this game called Halo, and I was like, well, it looks pretty cool. Yeah, but I don't see what the big fuss is about. Where, let's go flash forward a while. A friend of mine lent me his Xbox so I could play Knights of the Old Republic. I bought Knights of the Old Republic, and I borrowed his Xbox because I had to play that Star Wars game. And in the box that he gave me with the Xbox was Halo. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure, So after a 9-hour marathon session playing Knights of the Old Republic, I put the game down and I was like, oh, okay, oh yeah, this Halo's here. Maybe I should give that a shot. I'm like, okay. And so I put Halo in. It starts off, that music. I'm like, okay. I start going through. And I'd played some first-person shooters before. Like Doom and things like that. And I thought they were pretty cool. But Halo was so incredible. It was about the physics. It was about everything that was going on there. The graphical look. That's what got me in. That single-player adventure and the storyline. With the flood, with all what was going on. I loved every second of it. And then my friends came over. And we started to play it every single day. The multiplayer. And I didn't give my friend his Xbox back for a while. He didn't care too much at that time. But we played this game religiously every single day. And we loved it. I mean, at that time, I can't say Halo was a life-changing game for me. And I loved everything about it. Every single thing about it. I would start to memorize the levels and I became really good at the game. And I just loved the physics and all the crazy things you could do. I mean, Halo was groundbreaking at the time, and yes, since then, we've had a few more Halo games. Have they captured the same magic as the original for me? Not the same, for sure, and that's why Halo, the first one, is such a magical experience for me. I adore this game, and an easy 10 out of 10 game for me. Now, for the last game, I have definitely talked about this game quite a lot over the years, and it deserves it. It deserves it because it's a 10 out of 10 game. Man, walking into an arcade back in the day, huge crowd of people. I'm trying to see what they're all looking at. I'm like, what's going on over here? And I remember seeing Ryu shooting a fireball at Ken. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? And I'd seen Street Fighter 1. With a big patch hit. I thought that was okay. I like the characters and stuff like that. I like the design. But oh my God. They upped it. They took it to another level with Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2. When I saw that game for the first time in arcades, I was sold for a lifetime. It was the gameplay. It was the competitiveness. It was about learning all the moves. And this is before the internet, so finding out moves for certain characters was a secret, was kind of magical when you figured out how to do it. And it was incredible. And I spent many, many, many hours at the arcade training. I wasn't playing a video game, I was training to get and kill and destroy every opponent that would come up to me and try to play me in the game. And at first I wasn't very good at the game. And at the end, man, I could destroy anybody in the arcade back in the day, back in 1991. What a time that was. And I remember people coming from other schools, taking the bus over to my arcade to challenge different players. And it was so competitive. It was so incredible. It was all these cool characters, all these amazing characters that are classics now. Chun-Li, Blanca, I mean, everybody in this game was amazing. It was the backgrounds. I mean, I still to this day don't think I played a video game as much as I did Street Fighter 2 because my mom would give me like $3 back then to go to school, to high school, and have lunch. You could buy lunch at the cafeteria. Forget that. Who needs to eat when you have Street Fighter 2? So I just go to the arcade and I use all that money to play Street Fighter 2 and get better at it. And at the end of the day, I could just put $1 in. I could play for the entire day and never leave. I mean, I could go on about Street Fighter 2 for hours and hours about what a genius game it is. Street Fighter 2 completely changed the way we looked at competitive fighting games. It was the beginning of that. It was the complete beginning of that. And after that, all the copycats came. All the copycats came trying to make a game that was like Street Fighter. And some of them came close. There's a lot of really great fighting games out there. There's hundreds of them after Street Fighter 2. But nothing in my mind ever captures my love for a video game like that original game. I have the arcade game over here to the side of me, and I absolutely adore it. I mean, as I say, I could spend hours and hours talking about Street Fighter 2 alone, for sure. So, guys, those are some games for today that I believe are 10 out of 10 games for myself personally. Let me know what some of your games out there that deserve a 10 out of 10 for you personally. Let me know down below. And in the future, I'll do another list, another random list. I'm really having a lot of fun talking about some of the games that I really love that deserve 10 out of 10s right next to them. So anyways, guys, until next time.